So I want to talk about a hospitality mindset. This is what I'm all about, what I'm focused on, what I'm very, very passionate about. And this is what it looks like normally, right? So the iceberg, the example, right? So most restaurant owners in general, business owners in general that are trying to teach hospitality, focus on the top, right? The symptom, that piece. So they try and use words to try and teach hospitality, right? Words. Say these words. Say these words in this order. That's what they try and focus on, and that's why it doesn't land. That's why when you go into a restaurant, everyone in here can use yourself as a case study. When you go into a restaurant, how often do you get honest-to-God hospitality? Like honest to God, I feel like they care. I feel like I made a friend. I feel valued. I don't feel like a number. It's rare. What about businesses? How often do you interact with a business and you feel like you were valued or you cared? When I call my bank and they made a mistake and I'm calling them to fix their mistake, I'm on the phone going, again, I just hope they don't piss me off. That's it. I'm never getting on the phone going, man, this is going to be fast. This is going to be convenient. They're going to be so nice, and they're probably going to make up for it. This is going to be pleasant. I can't wait. It's like, I just please freaking fix this and do it in less than an hour, and don't piss me off. That's how low the standards are right now. Hospitality is dying, but hospitality is not really dying. It's not hospitality that's dying. It's the way it's being trained is dying. So what we want to look at is the bottom there, the cause, right? That's the focus. That's how we train hospitality. Underneath there, it's a much bigger solution than the top, right? There's a lot more that goes into it. So to truly train, you have to truly understand your people. Okay, that's another thing too. To run a successful business, you have to be able to understand that you are in the business of developing people. If you were a solopreneur and you ran a business all by yourself, you don't have to develop people. But if you're running a restaurant or a business that requires people to execute your vision and your mission and to make your business as successful as possible, you have to develop them. You have to nurture, train, and coach them. If you're thinking you can just hire someone on, train them for 7 days, and then come in and just hold them accountable, give them a hard time because they're not doing their job, and that's going to be the way the business is going to be ran, sure, you might be able to stay in business, but you could be surviving, not thriving. I want to show you guys how to thrive. So to be able to truly, truly train your people, you have to understand them, just like you want to be understood by the person above you. And right now we're dealing with a couple of things. The reason why things are changing, the reason why hospitality is in the nature that it's at is because we have Gen Z flooding the workforce. And they're only going to take over more and more and more. We have post-COVID mindsets. After COVID, people thought differently, think differently, or motivated differently, get bought in differently. It changed the way they thought. They got free money, got to stay home. Now they go back to work and they're like, wait, there's another life out there. And technology. AI is already dramatically changing the way people learn. Don't sleep on this. So, to understand the people, understand Gen Z, this is one of the biggest things we get all the time. Preston, what the hell's going on with Gen Z? I cannot freaking train them. I can't get them bought in. They don't care. They're not motivated. They're willing to quit. They don't seem to be motivated by anything. What the heck's going on? We have to understand them. So think about this. Industrial revolution. Our grandparents. I need a job. When they didn't have a job, they slept on the street. When they didn't have a job, they didn't eat. So they needed the job. So they'll keep the job. They're motivated just by the job. I'm going to do a freaking good job, and I'm going to listen to my boss. I'm going to execute at a high level. I'm going to be motivated because I don't want to sleep on the street. Pretty good motivator. Then came the next revolution, the information revolution, a little bit before the internet was introduced. And this was, I need a standard of life. I want to buy a bigger house. I want to buy a boat. I want a second car. People were motivated by being able to get nicer things. It was obtainable. Yes, I will work harder. Yes, I will give more. Yes, I'll work an hour after my shift. Sure, no problem, because I want that, I want more, and I know I can get it. But here's what we don't understand. We need to understand, in order to properly train, nurture, and coach our current team of Gen Z, is now we're in the digital revolution, social media. And that is, I need quality of life. Because right now, the cost of living has gone up. The cost of everything has gone up. But what hasn't gone up is the pay, right? Not to match the cost of living and the cost of goods, right? They went up, this went skyrocketing, this kind of bumped up a little bit. So now, Gen Z is not motivated. If you talk to an average Gen Z person, they don't even think it's possible to buy a house in their lifetime. They're not even thinking about buying a boat. Way out of the question. So they're not motivated by money. Because if they make more of it, it still doesn't get them to their next destination. So what are they motivated by? Growth and purpose. I have to feel like I have purpose. And I have to feel like I have growth. I have to feel like I'm understood. And I have to feel like I'm appreciated. That's how you motivate Gen Z. Now again, if you're sitting in this room saying, Preston, you're going to tell me someone working the register or someone working the line in the kitchen or working the drive-thru, I'm going to be able to motivate them, tell them they have growth, purpose, culture, they have they're part of the vision? Absolutely. Again, 80-20. Because all the things that you just mentioned, that's what Chick-fil-A does. And they motivate Gen Z. Their average age of employee is 18. But you have to be creative. You have to show them purpose. You have to train, coach, and nurture them. And to truly train hospitality, you have to understand hospitality. This is so important. You have to understand hospitality and the purpose it is. And so I'd write this down, hospitality versus service. Really important to understand this. Do you know the difference between hospitality and service? And more importantly, does your staff know the difference between hospitality and service? Because if they don't, they're probably giving service. So, hospitality versus service. What is hospitality versus service? Service is a business transaction. That's it. Someone's walking in the door and saying, I have money, and I would like to exchange that for your product. That's what they're saying. And service, business transaction, you say, okay, I'm going to take your order, I'm going to take your money, I'm going to bring you your food, I'll fix any problems you have, and then I'm going to do it with a big smile on my face. That's service. Hospitality is the elevation of the experience. That's where the humans come in. That's the difference between a kiosk and a person at the register. That's someone making you feel special, valued. Because again, people are walking in your door and they're saying, I'm trusting you with my time and my money. I'm trusting you with my time and my money. And all I want you to do is honor it. Just like Chick-fil-A does. Just like In-N-Out does. I just want you to honor it. By training your staff enough to giving me a guest experience. By training your staff enough to make me feel comfortable. Right? I want people to trust when they walk into Small Sliders, I'm not going to deal with any BS. That's why I'll go. I'm not going to deal with any BS. I'm going to have professional people smiling, and if I need something, I feel comfortable enough. Your staff's made me feel comfortable enough to be able to ask for it confidently so I can enjoy my meal as much as possible. That's hospitality. That's the bottom line. We don't want to say, oh, because you're smiling really nice and really big. That's hospitality. It's not. Hospitality is the way you make people feel. And again, we have a short amount of time with the staff, so does Chick-fil-A. With the guest, so does Chick-fil-A. Doesn't matter. As long as we're in that transaction, everything goes smoothly, we're smiling, we're talking, and we're making them feel comfortable, and we're being consistent, that means we're building trust. And one thing I always talk about is hospitality is innate in everyone. Does everyone agree with that? Do you guys agree with that? If you don't, say so. We can talk about it. Hospitality is innate in everyone. So I hear this all the time. Oh, hospitality, either you got it or you don't. Either they have it or they don't. It's not true. Everyone is innately hospitable by nature. And I would ask you this, and you can ask anybody this. If you're dating someone and you have them come over to your house for the first time, you're going to cook them dinner. What would you do to prepare for that? Clean the house. You're probably going to clean things in your house that you never cleaned before, right? Cleaning floorboards. Ladies, are you going to have like a brush with a bunch of hair in it sitting on the bathroom counter? What else are you going to do, though, to prepare? Buy some really nice food, right? Maybe ask them what they like. What else? Maybe you'll have some candles lit. Music playing. Yes, you'll have music playing. Maybe you'll take a shower. Why are you doing all those things? Why would anybody do all those things? Because you want to impress them, make an impression, make them feel a certain way, right? That's hospitality. That's what hospitality is. You're making people feel a certain way. That's all it is. Everyone has it in them. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone understands it. It's all about our communication and how we translate it to them. That's why it's important. But they have to understand what hospitality is. This should be a conversation you're having in the interview process. Do you know the difference between service and hospitality? Okay, if you don't, here's what it is. Can you commit that you'll be giving hospitality, not service? making a connection with guests, making them feel comfortable, building trust in the guests. Can you do that? And then during onboarding and training, we're doing the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. Hospitality is selfless. I call it unconditional hospitality. So by nature, hospitality is selfless. We want people to be selfless. So if I'm trying to give hospitality for a tip, then I'm not really giving hospitality. If I'm giving hospitality only if the guest acts a certain way, I'm not really giving hospitality. It has to be selfless. And I train this all the time in restaurants. Doesn't matter what your tips are. Doesn't matter what the guest says. Doesn't matter how the guest acts. Doesn't even matter if the guest is polite. We're just giving unconditional hospitality. But more importantly, we're giving our staff members hospitality. We're giving our coworkers unconditional hospitality. We're giving our leadership team unconditional hospitality. And then as leaders, we're giving our staff unconditional hospitality. Unconditional, meaning I'm not expecting anything in return. I'm just going to make sure you have the best experience possible. So how do you train hospitality? The employee experience is just as important as the guest experience. That should be a model in your restaurant. The employee experience is just as important as the guest experience. We should be focused on the employee experience. This is what Chick-fil-A does. This is what In-N-Out does. We're making sure our employees feel taken care of. We're making sure we have a good leadership team to make sure that they're getting taken care of. We're making sure they're enjoying their time at the company. We want them to leave. They can freaking become a lawyer and they can say, man, one of my best jobs I had was at Small Sliders. Their leadership there, the way they took care of me, the way they trained me was like nothing other that I've ever experienced. Again, 80-20. We don't have to have limiting beliefs because we're Small Sliders. Oh, well, it's fast casual, it's a QSR. No, we can do this. We can give them a great experience. We have to focus on it, though. We can make this the best job they ever had because it's not about pay. It's about leadership, training, and growth. So focus on the employee experience. It can't be, I'm your boss, you're my employee, do what I say. It's like, how do I bring out the best of you? Honestly, think about every employee we have. How do we leave them better than we found them? Both inside and outside of work. How do we motivate them outside of work? This is a big one. Setting expectations, training expectations, living expectations. Interview process, setting expectations. Here at Small Sliders, we give the guests the best experience possible, right? We leave them a little bit happier. Training expectations, then we train them how to do that. We give them the actual tools to be able to do that. And then living the expectation. You're doing it every day. We're doing it every day. We're the living embodiment of what we're asking them to do. Raise your hands if you read this book, Unreasonable Hospitality. If you haven't read this book, you should read it. Really good book on hospitality, but also on just business development, on operations development, and mindset. In Unreasonable Hospitality, basically it's a book about Will Guidara. He started off in the restaurant industry, got his first managing job, a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant. He was doing like their numbers, and then he would just be the best in the room. And he slowly got jobs at better places, and he would just improve the restaurants through his leadership. And then he eventually got the GM role at 11 Madison Square, which is now arguably one of the best restaurants in the world, both critically and financially. He turned it around. And when he got the job at 11 Madison Square, it's a fine dining restaurant, and he said, I remember this moment when I had a new GM that came in one time, a long time ago. I have this memory. And this new GM came in, and he had this speech about his mission and his vision. And it was so powerful. And I remember thinking, I can't wait to have that conversation. I can't wait to become a GM and have that speech. But he said, I can't just do it. I can't just go in, walk into 11 Madison Square and say, here's my mission and vision, guys, because they won't buy in. I want them bought into the mission and vision. I want them to say yes. When I say jump, I want them to say how high. So what he said was, I spent 6 months working side by side in every department. Server, busser, runner, line cook, working side by side with them. I didn't tell him what to do. I didn't ask him to do anything. I just learned the role. I was as supportive as I could be, and I learned everything inside and out. I knew how every piece of the operation ran inside the restaurant, and I earned everybody's respect, and I knew what the heck I was talking about. If I had to give them direction, I knew what I was talking about, and they knew I knew what I was talking about. And so then he said, after that 6 months, I had that conversation, and he got full buy-in. I can't recommend it enough. If you can't work a position with your eyes closed, if you can't make recommendations on how to make it better, I highly recommend you do that. And one thing that's really important to understand too is day-to-day grind misaligns you. This is really important, right? So we start off as an owner or as a manager, whatever it is, even as an employee, we start off with this vision, right? We get hired on, we open our company, we go, this is what we want to do. We want to focus on this. We have this goal, I have this vision, I have this dream, right? But then your day-to-day grind misaligns you. You slowly start getting misaligned, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're doing the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And that's why it's really important to continuously realign yourself. Ask yourself, why am I doing this every single day? Why did I start doing this in the first place? What is my mission? What is my vision? And this is something we put together for the companies we work for. This is what it looks like, a whole training process, top to bottom. But my question is, you train your staff, right? You guys are training your staff. All of your staff goes through training. And like I talked about, afterwards, they kind of fall off, right? And you're like, what happened? I trained them on that. Now they're not doing it. I trained them on something, and they didn't do it. And I asked them about it, and they said, oh, I forgot. Or it just doesn't seem like they care. It doesn't seem like they're bought in. They've lost that motivation, that edge. What happened? Well, we have to have these 5 phases, right? You have to have advanced leadership. You have to have systems, dynamic training. But the 2 last ones are the important ones that people miss a lot. And that's follow-up and accountability. We have to follow up with our staff, train, nurture, and coach them, and we have to hold them accountable. Absolutely crucial, right? Accountability is the key to excellence. Chick-fil-A, rampant with accountability. In-N-Out, rampant with accountability. Top to bottom. We train them on something. We have to take the time to follow up to make sure they're executing that training, and we have to take the time to hold them accountable if they're not. And accountability needs to be presented in a certain way. You can't just present it as a negative thing. You have to present it as a positive tool to chase excellence, to make everyone better. Everyone gets held accountable in all aspects of life. Accountability is a part of life. It's a part of growth. So develop your staff. Consistently train, coach, and nurture your staff. Has anybody seen this movie? If you haven't seen Moneyball, I'll break it down for you really quickly. Moneyball is based on a true story, and it starts off with Brad Pitt, a manager of a baseball team. And if you're not familiar, which I'm sure most of you are, baseball is one of the few organizations that has no salary cap. So if you're rich, you can just buy a bunch of good players and be successful, or somewhat successful. And Brad Pitt goes into the beginning of the season, goes into his owner's office and says, we need more money. We cannot buy enough good players to even compete. And to give you an example, there's rich teams that can buy a bunch of players. There's poor teams that can't, and we're down here. He's like, I need more money. I need more resources. And the owner says, no, we don't have the money. You're going to have to be resourceful. So Brad Pitt leaves. He's upset, but he runs into Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill's a math major who just graduated from Harvard. And he goes, I have a way to turn everything into numbers, the whole game of baseball, where it just becomes an equation. We turn the game into an equation. We turn all the players to an equation, and we just plug them in, and we get a winning formula. So we don't even have to have good players. We just have to have the right players in the right places. So they both go on a mission, and they start selling off all their good players. They start hiring all these terrible players that no one wanted. They're old, or they're hurt, whatever it is. And then Brad Pitt goes up to the coach, and the coach goes, are you insane? I can't, this isn't a team. Why are you getting rid of all the good players, hiring these bad players? And Brad Pitt just goes, just coach them. Do it. Trust me. This will work. And the coach is like, what are you talking about? And so they start playing, and they start losing. And they lose, and they lose, and they lose, and they lose. And they just go on this long losing streak. And everyone's saying they lost it, that Brad Pitt was crazy, and he was about to lose his job. And he's driving home one night, and he pulls over the side of the road, and he has an epiphany. He realized what he did wrong. And so the next day, he comes in, and him and Jonah Hill go up to every single player, and they start showing them why they're there, the purpose, the function, the vision. I just need you to get on first base. That's it. That's your job. All I need you to do is on first base. Don't worry about anything else. Just get on first base. I just need you to bunt. Every time you're at bat, just bunt. Bunt, bunt, bunt. I just need you to make sure you catch on this field. If a ball comes that direction, all you got to do is catch it. I don't want you to worry about anything else. That's why you're here. And they go to every single player and tell them their function and make it super clear. This is what we need you to do, and this is why we need you to do it. This is your part. This is your part in the company, your part in the vision. And then they go up to the coach, and they show the coach the map, right? The equation. And they tell the coach, this is what we're doing, right? Just do this math equation. The coach goes, oh my God, now I get it. Thank you. Giving them clear-cut direction, training, coaching, and nurturing them. And then they started winning. In fact, they went on the longest winning streak. I don't know if it still stands today, but they went on the longest winning streak in their sport. Why? What changed? They trained, nurtured, and coached. They gave their players purpose, they showed them the vision, showed them the function, and they gave them the tools to succeed. That's the difference. That one tweak took him on a losing streak to one of the longest winning streaks in the sport.